Okie dokie, and we begin exactly on time. Very LA. So I want to let me start by introducing myself, and then at this wonderful early hour of the morning, and thanks to those of you who made it up. I've been doing investment for a long old time, maybe 26, 27 years over about 35 countries. Here in LA, a couple of you know me, a few of you don't know me. Here in LA, we have an accelerator, also a pre-accelerator, also an incubator for startup companies. We specialize in companies that are normally pre-Series A. So we would have about 60% of our companies would be tech companies. Maybe another bunch would be product companies. We will get movie, YouTube, and more in the creative space as well. We're looking right now at an artist, a singer, who's creating a label where we're looking at bringing that in as well. We kind of see whether it's a movie, whether it's a startup, whether it's a singer, like we're all in the creative space. We're all starting something that never existed before. So because of that, the principle of what we're trying to achieve, most of the parameters stay pretty much the same. So what I want to share with you today is I'm not going to give you, 400 slides of a PowerPoint. I'm going to have people who are going to come in and they're going to share their expertise, but I've decided I'm not going to do it in the form of a panel. I'm going to get people one by one sharing. I'm going to bring in people that I really respect, people who've done a lot. So for example, I'll have Paige come up here. Paige has financed, I think, about 600 or 700 movies in her lifetime, so she's pretty legit. I'll also have Angels come up here as well and do exactly the same thing and share exactly what it is they look for in finance. And I'm going to do the same thing myself. But what I really want to do, every time I come to Digital Hollywood every 6 months, and every single time I get a great space, I get great people who come through, and I want to make it really interactive. I generally go 100 miles an hour all day, and I never get a chance to slow down and make it very specific and as one-on-one as possible. So I want to make it a lot about you. I want to really demonstrate the areas of failure, maybe to success within raising finance. I want, if people have got possibly a pitch deck or a presentation, that I give people the opportunity to be able to give it so you can see yourself what makes a great presentation and maybe what makes a presentation that can be improved. And more importantly, in my 47 years on this planet, and certainly my last 10 years working with institutional investors, I want to share with you the probability that I've learned. Because there is no fact here, but you do get to see, you get to really learn what gives you better probability of being able to get investment after you see as many companies as we do. And I think last year, certainly this year, we had about 400 companies go through Expert Dojo. So we certainly get to see a lot in Santa Monica. So let's start. I want to start with some resources, which I think will help, because over a 2.5-hour session, you can only get so much. And then we're going to go into the fundamentals of what makes a great pitch, presentation, communication, all of it, all the way through to, where do you get the investment from? And I want to share that with you and then make it, as I said, a little bit interactive and get people involved. Sound pretty good? Great. And then, as I said, please think of this as for me, this is a very intimate environment. I really like this. It's not about keep questions till the end. If anybody feels I'm going the wrong way, I'll always happily bring it back to you. So just throw your hand up and happily get involved at the beginning. So I want to share actually my favorite resource right now. We wanted to start a podcast around 2 years ago or 3 years ago in Expert Dojo. And because starting a podcast is actually really hard, it took us about 2 years to get this damn thing put together. But it is without question the favorite thing we do. And I would say the best resource that we have in Expert Dojo, maybe even including a lot of the paid stuff that we do as well. We call the podcast The Art of Startup War. And I was pretty, let me get this thing. Sorry, it feels weird. I was glad that it took us ages to do this, because When I first wanted to do a podcast, we thought, let's just do it with entrepreneurs. We get great entrepreneurs, they'll say what they've done, and then everybody can learn from it. But the truth is we don't really. We just get to hear how epic and rich they are, as opposed to learning, because their journey is very different to ours. So we reached the point where we said, well, what is it we really want? We really want to get into the mind of investors. Most of us need investment, not necessarily as much as we think we do. We think that investment is 80% of what we need and 20% is the business. Most of the time, the percentages are slightly less skewed than that, but we still need some form of investment because we're in a different world today than we were in 15, 20 years ago. Like 15, 20 years ago, we didn't necessarily need investment. We didn't have expensive tech costs. If you're doing a movie, obviously it's different. It's almost worked the opposite way around. But certainly within product and within tech, we didn't have the high cost that we had, but also we didn't have the unfair playing field. So what do I mean by unfair playing field? Well, in business, it's always been unfair in movies, right? In movies, if you have mass distribution, then to be an independent producer or just to have your own movie and to get it out there is really hard. It's always been really hard because you're not competing with great movies. You're competing with great budgets. You're competing with tens of millions of dollars that are there to market the budget. We didn't have that problem 15 years ago in small business or even in technology businesses or even in product businesses, but we have it today. So when we look at companies, like Amazon, we would say, Amazon, how many people here think Amazon is an amazing company? Actually, let me rephrase it. How many people here don't think Amazon is an amazing company? Right? And I'll tell you why. Because, and it's not so much that they're uncompetitive, like that they force people out of business. I don't mean that. That's part of life in some ways. What I mean is, you know how much money they lost before they made money? Like, anyone want to throw a guess at me? How about $7 billion, 100 billion, like mini-me, right? It's like, $1 million. No, 7 billion. But 7 billion is pretty badass all the same. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm being unfair here, but give me $7 billion to put in my business, and I think I can make a go of it, right? So you get a company that over a 10-year period loses $7 billion, that their model is pretty much to buy something for $1 and to sell it for 80 cents when you allow for the costs, and then they push everybody else out of business. So, but this wasn't the case 15 years ago. We didn't really have to compete with that in small business, but we do today. So what I'm saying is, we're in this even playing field now. Whether you're looking to push a movie or whether you're looking to push a brand new business or whether you're looking for a tech product, we all have the same problem. Most of us need strong investment so that we can get to that place. Now, just so I know who the audience is, how many people here are looking to get finance for a movie? Okay, cool. So we got like 6 or 7 people. And then everybody else, I'm guessing you're looking for investment for business technology, right? Anybody I've missed? Anything in there which is different to there? What you got? I want you to do a favor for me. You're never going to use the words non-profit outside a conversation with you and your accountant, right? Because non-profit is a fine tax vehicle. Like if it helps you save 5% or 10%, or it means that somebody can get paid without having to pay as much tax, awesome, God bless you. But the more you say the words non-profit to a random group of people who don't care what your tax situation is, the more it excuses you from making money. And I don't mean you, I mean in general. It's a term that is associated with, well, if we're a non-profit, either, you should, no, I don't, and again, I don't mean you. I really want to bring this example up because it's very predominant in a lot of the conversations that we have with startups and people starting businesses. And they'll say, well, I said, I don't mind if you have an LLC. You don't say, hey, we're a C Corp business and we're going to do, no. You're a business that needs to make money. And you have to make money. Like if you don't make money, whether it's through donations, contributions, whether it's through subscription, whether it's through SaaS, whatever it's through, you got to make money. So if you lead by saying, hey, we are an educational business that do what? That do movie production. That's awesome. But I'm guessing within that, because you mentioned nonprofit at the start, I'm guessing you're purpose-led, right? But that's killer. I want to know you're purpose-led because that's what I do care about. Because especially if I'm an investor, like the second you say to me, The second anyone says to me as an investor, and like what I'm talking about is a very taboo subject, right? Most people won't speak about this. They'll just politely nod their head and say, okay, that sounds very nice. But the moment you say non-profit is the moment that an investor is thinking, cool, these people are excusing themselves from making money. Well, that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're saying, we have a purpose. We're going to do a movie that matters, that makes a difference in the world, that's going to educate people. Now, that's way better. Now I really want to know about who it's going to educate. So who's it going to help? What types of people? Yeah, because it's a great subject, and I think it's going to relate to a lot of other people here as well in their own space. Yep. 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 Yeah. 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 So what's the output of the movie? And what's the difference that there'll be either in the world or to people that your movie will make that didn't exist before? Yeah. We need more. I need the number one to be bigger and bolder, and it's yeah. But let's take it back. Let's really specific. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Like, you're in a very good place right now. And actually, I know your space extremely well. We've got two companies in the dojo who are both either autistic-led. I don't mean autistic owners. I mean that their whole purpose. One of them is Sing and Speak. And what they're trying to do is help education within slow learning. I don't know if it's boys or girls or both, but it's through singing. So they have this really, really clever singing educational program that they brought in, and they're looking for investment on it. But they've brought it a long way. And I want to talk about that in relevance to what you're doing. But their outcome is really specific. What they say is, general, and let's say autistic, right? Because people can see where that is on the spectrum. If it's slow learning, it could be anybody from my boy all the way up to, you know, somebody who's been misdiagnosed just because they run around a lot. So, but within autism, there's a specific learning period. It takes obviously X amount to get to the place that it takes most of the boys to get to. Maybe another 5-6 years that they're falling behind at the beginning, and then it goes slower and slower. So in their particular case, they've said, you know, we have built this program, and we believe within the program that we've built, we're actually going to be able to get kids who've got autism to, rather than be 6 years behind by the age of 9 or 10, or 4 or 5 years, they're actually going to be only 3 years. Now, we can't prove it yet because we haven't done it, but that is our intent. That's powerful. And when we started with that particular company, they were looking for institutional investors. They went to venture capitalists. They went to angels. But who should they be going to? Parents who've got kids who've got learning difficulties, right? Like, it's perfect because now the message is really clear. It's not about more voices. It's not about making the world a better place. It's just about, look, kids generally fall 5 years behind. It's not rocket science, but it does require a very strong process and a very strong educational program. And here's what we're going to do. Like, we're going to have them only 3 years behind. As long as we get them by the age of 3 or 4, or maybe 5 at the latest, they're only going to be 3 years behind by the time they reach 9. You know how huge that is? So now you're appealing to a different type of person. You're either appealing to someone who is touched by autism, which, by the way, most of us are in some ways. I doubt if there's a single person in this room who doesn't know someone who's got an autistic child or somebody who's been touched by it. Like, I know I have 6, 7 friends who within in my space have got kids who are in that kind of area. So for me, even if my own children are not touched by it, I mean, imagine that legacy, that as an investor, I can take an entire demographic of kids, an entire generation, and I can change their lives. How much is it going to cost me with our company? Like 200 grand. So let's say I'm a rich investor. I'm well off. I'm doing well. I'm up in Malibu. I've exited a company for a couple of $100 million. I'm not touched by autistic kids. You just got to get that message to me really quick. And you got to get that message to me in the right social settings. So let's say you go to a dinner party and they say, what do? You say, hey, we're a purpose-led educational company. We're doing a movie and our intention is to improve the learning skills of autistic kids by up to 25% by the age of 5. But we can't do this without you. Powerful, right? It's a whole different message. Because now what you're saying to me is, because remember, like investors are no different than the rest of us. We've invested in some companies in the dojo now. The companies we incubated, we pay for their CEOs, we're paying for their websites. But you got to touch us with something. Like it's either, and one of the resources I was going to give you, by the way, is our podcast, which is The Art of Startup War. And I really recommend anybody who can listens to it. We only get investors on the podcast, and they talk specifically about what, and I grill them for 45 minutes. Hey, but what makes you invest? What goes through your mind when you're investing? And they go, blah, 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 blah. And I say, okay, but really, why do you invest? But really, I mean, why that one? But really, like, what's really important? So I really grill them on it. But as you go through those podcasts and you listen to them, and we already have about 15 podcasts up and another 15 waiting to be loaded up. But as you listen to them, you will hear that investors are driven generally by one or two things. They're principally driven by money. Okay? And I'm going to show you some examples of companies. I'm going to show you examples of the same company that 1 year ago has got no investment opportunity. Today, everybody wants to invest in. So we're going to look at the difference between where they were before and where they are right now. But in your case, you have got how much money do you need? So there might even be an investor in here right now. Like, how much money do you need? What's that going to do? So you know what would be really interesting is with everybody in the room. I'm sorry to use it, but I also really like using you as well, if you don't mind. Do you mind this conversation? Is this okay? It is, yeah, because you're also getting it, because it actually helps for about 3 or 4 reasons. The first reason it helps is because you just got your message out to 40, 50 people, right, which is cool. And I'll guarantee you there's one person here who's passionate about this subject. The cool thing about your space is the one person who's got some close personal story that they're super passionate. And there will be 2 or 3 other people in this room who will care. But it depends on you and on how you are. And this is massively unfair because you're not doing a pitch or anything else. But I want to bring it up because I want to bring it up for all of you. Whenever you get an opportunity to be in front of anyone else, you're on stage. You're on stage no less than I'm on stage right here. How you sit, how you project your voice, what you say, the meaning that you get through to people matters. The fact that you're sitting back right now and not sitting forward affects me investing in you. Silly, right? But it's true. It's how I think. Like, I make an impression on you within the first... You all have on me. Like, at the beginning, maybe not as much because you kind of know me and your expectation is, God, this guy better be good because I'm wasting 2 hours this morning, so flip. So it's a different kind of expectation. But when nobody knows you and they don't know where you've come from and you're just brought up, which is going to be the case as most of you are making your pitches, like that first 15, 20 seconds is everything. And they have to see that the money that's going to be put into you is not going to be squandered. And most, like if I go back, not to movies, but if I go back to tech, where the statistics are very standard, the failure rate within companies that get $1 million is 95%. These are the companies who get $1 million. Like, forget about the companies who don't get $1 million. So when investors are looking at you, now you looking at me right like that is totally different. I know it's not fair, right? But it is how people will judge. Like, we judge people here the same as we judged them when we were kids, the same as we're in the playground, everything. The passion that's in your voice. So you're talking about something that is crazy, crazy passionate subject. But I want you to say it to me now, like with the passion of the whole thing. And I want to tell you what I mean by that. So here's the thing. For me, I could care less about business. This is the truth. Like, I don't. You put me in a room with very high-end business people. I'll give you a better story. I was at an Oscar screening, right, in a very nice house over in Beverly Hills, which started at 5:30 or 5 whatever. And I got into the house, and there was a bunch of really nice people there. Like, everybody was really nice. But I got to, I think, 5:25, and I sneaked out. And I sneaked out because I wasn't comfortable in that particular space. So if you put me in general with business, I'm not comfortable. Like, you put me in a boardroom where I got to deal with the politics and with the people, it's just, to me. But you put me in a space of small business. That's my world. That's my sandpit. So when I'm talking to people about small business and the challenges of small business and the fact that my people who are part of me, what we do every day, we are failing at a rate of 98, 99%. I am passionate about that. Actually, I am pissed about that. Because I can't believe the bravest people in the world, us, we take a step out of the mundane society of taking a job and just trudging through and making it through till we're dead. And no disrespect, because there's other areas which are important too, like religion for people and obviously family and other things as well. I'm only talking about this one area of creativity. Like, and we're brave enough to take that step out. And for every 100 of us, for every person in this room, like, only one person's going to make. Like, that's not right. And then if we go further and we take the example I gave of Amazon this morning, we could say Uber is the same thing. Like, it's no secret the CEO of Uber is a jerk. Like, is the company a great company? No, like, he had a great idea. And then they piled billions of dollars to destroy every other company out there. So they destroy my people. So do I like Uber? No, not really. Do I like my people who are early stage? So when I'm on a stage, like, I don't care who I'm with. I want to get you to this space because it's really important, because if people are going to invest, and again, this is for everyone. If they're going to invest in your project, they're investing in you. If they invest in your business, they're investing in you. So when I started Expert Dojo, and I was 1.5 years into the company, and I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine, a guy called JP, and I said, yeah, man, we're leading edge. We're doing really cool things. We've got educational processes we're putting in place. We're really helping entrepreneurs get to the next level. And he said, what's the one thing that could destroy your company in one day if you did it? I said, I don't know, if I was really abusive to investors. And he said, well, do you think investors are doing right by entrepreneurs? I go, no, it's a terrible system. It's really unfair. What happens is, if you're, an Ivy League, well-educated person, and I got no bone in any fight with anyone. I went to an okay school. So, but if you're that type of person, you're probably related to, like, let me use Snapchat. A couple of rich trust fund boys and girls who've got rich trust fund mammies and daddies who got them involved with lots of other rich people. So they had an unlimited amount of money to spend on their business. That's not ordinary entrepreneurs doing extraordinary things. That's just a couple of rich boys and girls who get to play with billions of dollars. So for me, that's inherently unfair. It's unfair that the startups who come through my program have to compete with a system that automatically destroys 99 out of 100 that comes through. So do I say I'm passionate about this? Yeah, because I am. Because it's congruent with me. You don't fake this. It's an area you come to. You see it with people, like, when you find that purpose, But I don't call myself a non-profit. I'm a for-profit. We should make money. We should make lots of money. We shouldn't make it on the hardship of other people, but we should sure as heck make money. Because if we don't make money, then I'm just going to be the richest nice guy in the corner of the street, and that's no damn good. So when I had the opportunity, and I said, yeah, but the investors are really unfair, and he said, okay, so now what you got to do is you've got to do something really strong that's going to test if that will destroy your business. And I did a TEDx talk called The Kidnapping of the American Dream. And that it was actually quite interesting because the talk was how institutional investors are sexist, misogynistic, elitist, and every other ist out there. And it got really good traction. And you know what happened? We had twice as many investors come in for our next festival. You know what they said? They go, we're not bad people. It's just this is easy. If we have a rigged game and everybody's around us, like it's cool. But you want to put poor people in front of me who've got a great idea and there's a good chance of getting them through, we'll happily look at that. You want to put people from a deprived area, that's okay. Like you want to put people who are not within our special little group, it's fine. Interesting, right? I would never have guessed that. So all I'm saying to you, and I'm saying to everybody else in here, is the investors are principally looking at how quickly they can get a return on their money. And you'll see it when I show you the things, but they have to believe in you. If they see you doing something really special and you really believe in it and it's your life's work and it's your purpose, they will hone in on that. And over a period of time, as you build up their trust, you can get money from them. But they have to believe it. So when you talk to me about a purpose-led company which is going to help autistic kids and slow-learning kids and just kids who are having difficulties in general, I want to know from you within 10 seconds why this is the most important thing in the world and why I should give a shit. Hey. So you were wrong about when you answered the question, what would be the one thing that could happen overnight that would destroy your company? You went out, tried it, and it turned out not to be true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do every day. I do every day. I spend... You know, it's a really interesting point you make. Like, do I spend every day? That was just one really interesting day that I looked. Most of us live our business lives in a very superficial place. So we think it's deep because we're doing cool stuff, but they're not things that will destroy us. Like, they're not things that will lose our... And by the way, I'm not subscribed. I'm not saying everybody should lose their house and get divorced tomorrow. But they're not generally... They're generally areas that will test us, that push us, but not to a crazy extreme. So that was... I think of that as just a very big spike where I just went way down to a place where I thought this could lose everything. Like, this could cost... everything, like everything. And I'm not even sure where we would come back from it. Have I done it every day since? No, not really. And do I get comfortable and do I need to be reminded of it? Definitely yes. But that was a moment in time where I was absolutely sure that would do it. And I'm not even saying to everybody here you should do this. I'm just saying get close to a very passionate space. Something like autism is so close and personal to all of us. I have to feel it. I have to, and I have to feel what you're going to do, and I can't be answered with generalisms as to the potential output. Like, and have more people talking about it is absolutely a legitimate answer, but I want specifically, I almost want the names of the people who are going to be impacted. I almost want you to walk into the room with 5 pictures of 5 kids, and I want underneath it where they are today and where they could be in like 3 years' time. Like, that's how you really take a purpose-led movement and you make it awesome. You know, and then so yeah, I just found that really good. So I hope that's helpful. But really, this was just like 25 minutes talking about the art of startup war. As you listen to the podcasts, you'll get so much help from it. You'll hear what all of the investors are saying and where they're digging into. So I want to jump back. Let's now talk a little bit about. And by the way, anybody else who wants to get involved like that, it's really helpful for everybody else as well. So feel free to throw up your hand. Yeah. Yeah. But in that sort of thing, there's not just strength, there's also leverage. Yeah. So where does one have a point of leverage when they are pitching to the investor? And Great point. I'm going to show you this company right here. This is maybe one of the nicest guys I know. A guy called Craig Carroll. And Craig came to me a year and a half ago. And he said, I have this great idea. I have this idea where there's a problem in most buildings, including this building. Like, this all feels beautiful and nice, but this was built probably, I'm guessing, like 40, 50 years ago. And because of that, or maybe more recently, but if it's more than 10 years, it's still got the same problem, which is that the breaker system is kind of disconnected from the rest of the space. What happens is something breaks, like a light up there will go, and then somebody will notice it in 3 days' time or in 2 days' time, or maybe even the next day, and then they'll call somebody else, and then that person will come in and fix it maybe 2 or 3 days later, but it's a very inefficient system. And he said most buildings around LA and the rest of the world are actually like that. And imagine if we could track all of the electricals that go from all of the different buildings everywhere, and we could set a predictive maintenance structure in place where texts and emails go out to all of the relevant people, not just when things break, but also when they're predicted to break, so that people can check them and make sure that we're not continually. And I thought, wow, what an awesome idea. It's really good. And Craig went to a lot of other people who are institutional investors, and he said the same idea, but he didn't have leverage. And he obviously didn't have any traction, and they wouldn't do anything with him. So then he went to real estate people who are in the space, and he said, I want to create a system which is really going to help the space. And they didn't see, because they didn't really understand how technology works and how technology companies worked, so they were hesitant to put the system in place. So then he said, look, I'm going to change my whole pitch. I'm going to go to the people who are most impacted, and I'm going to build a system for one of those people. And I'm going to ask them to help with the building of the system, that we can put it in place for them for a large enough space. And he got one person. He pitched it to over 200 real estate people. He honed in on the most likely audience to help them. He realized really quickly, angels, wasting your time. Institutional investors, wasting your time. He's too early. He's a mid-40s guy, hasn't really exited any other businesses, doesn't have the mandatory CTO that you need to have in that type of space. So he went for the space that he knew was going to be most easiest for him to get them to try and do it. And he got one person to pony up $200,000. And then he decided he was going to build it. And he got the thing built, and he struggled through to get it built over 2-3 months, and he built this really great software. And then he went out to the angels again, and he said, I've built it. I've got this put in place. And the angels said to him, it's really good what you've got put in place, but now he's got a different problem. Same as we have in movies and we have in every other area as well. When you're giving me an idea as to what you can do, you're appealing to the emotional side of my brain. Like, it's awesome. Because as long as you have the passion, as long as you have, I would say, you give me the belief in what you're doing, then you can convince me. The second you build something, you are in a whole new world of pain. Because now you're appealing to the logical side of my brain. It's no longer about my emotional side anymore, because it's built. Now I'm thinking, oh, wonder why nobody uses this. Can't be that good. You got no users on board. Now the real answer is, from Craig, is, Brian, I can't get any users on board. I can't do marketing. I can't hire salespeople. I can't hire other people in the organization. And I can't even maintain it with the small amount that we're going to get in from the initial users. And he realized something straight away. He needed a sugar mommy or a sugar daddy. That's what he found out straight away. This was his immediate realization after speaking to angels, because he did something which very few other people do. Most of us, when we're pitching to angels or investors, it's an adversary relationship. My job is to take money from you. It's my only job. Now, whether I have to, depending on my moral ethics, whether I have to lie, cheat, steal, I don't do it outwardly. I don't think to myself, oh, man, I'm going to lie to Danny today because why not? I think to myself, hey, I'm going to build $1 billion company, and we're going to take over the world, and we're going to disrupt frictionlessly an industry that nobody else has been able to do. So it's not really lying, but it kind of is lying, because the chances of me doing that are pretty slim statistically. So most people go into this relationship, and then they either hear the words yes, or they hear the words no. And if the word is no, it's like, okay, I'll move on to the next thing. That's not how Craig heard it. What Craig did was he went into them expecting to hear no, but wanting an education on how to get to a yes. So every angel he met, he said, look, Of course I'm looking for money, but that's not the objective of this conversation. The objective of this conversation is twofold. Number one, do you think this is an incredible idea? And how can we discuss it? Because if you all think it's a really awful idea, then we have a problem that we need to deal with in the idea side. Number two, if you do think it's a good idea, let's work together on how we can build this thing forward. And I swear to you, you give me 5-10 minutes of your time now to help me with this, then when we get the traction that I believe we're going to get, you will be remembered. In what capacity, we'll see, because it depends how much you care about it, but you will be remembered. When we're successful, you'll be successful as well. And you know what he heard? He heard, there's a lot of electrical companies in the US. Why are they not backing you in any way? So he changed his methodology, and he moved over to starting to look at the largest electrical contractors in the US. And one of them was called Berg. And he said to Berg Electrics, they're like number 7 or number 8 in the US, and he said to them, guys, you right now, you go in and you do all the electrical maintenance in all of these different places. What's the biggest problem you're facing? And they said, well, because of electrical problems in a lot of the buildings, an electrician dies every 2 minutes. Like, who knew? Bunch of electricians are dying, but he didn't know that. So now he's like, damn, I got purpose now. I am saving electricians' lives because I'm forcing companies. Like, you come to my place in the dojo and you look at our breaker system, it's awful. They're like little bits of paper where stuff was written on, and somehow they all get burnt halfway across where it's there. So our bathrooms, the electrics went in our bathrooms, and the building can't find the breaker system that leads to the bathroom. So that's our reality. So imagine electricians trying to fix these things and get it done. Like, he now has a huge purpose. So he said to Berg, why don't we work together to fix this problem and to save electricians' lives? And I don't want any money from you. Actually, the opposite. I want to give you free equity in my company. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And he said, the way I'm going to do it is, you have tens of thousands of customers. All these people. Malls, buildings, everybody else. Why don't you recommend our services, this software, which they've now seen and it worked and it made sense? Why don't you recommend this software to your customers? And as long as we get X amount of customers and X amount of revenue, we're going to give you a percentage stake in our company. Like, for nothing. You don't have to pay. And if we don't become $1 billion company, well, that's okay. It didn't cost you anything, and you saved some people's lives. And if we do become $1 billion company, then you're going to have 4 or 5% of our company. And Craig didn't mind, because this was tied into about $1 million to $1.5 million worth of contract revenues coming through. You see how it changed. It changed from, I want investment, I need investment, I can't survive without investment, to, I want to build a great company. I want to be surrounded by incredible partners to try and get that company done. And then as soon as he got Berg on board, everybody's like, whoa, that's crazy. You got like one of the biggest electric, they must know something. Because we're led by greed, aside from purpose. When we don't need money anymore, we're not led by greed. But generally, it's greed that comes first, and then we're followed very quickly with FOMO. So as soon as we feel, if nobody else is going to invest, it's cool, who cares? You die and collapse, no problem. Other startups will come up. You survive and you do really well, no problem. I get you right at the very end. And what happened was, we then went with all this news. We layered up 5 or 6 bits of awesome news, and we went to all of our investors in the real estate space, and we said, guys, you have to invest in this. This contractor's in, this partner is in place, this is what he's raised already. And a guy called Jeffrey, who'd been one of our angel investors for a long time, said, hey, I'll put 200K into this. The second, and I mean literally the second he put the 200K in, we made maybe 40 phone calls to other angels that we knew, saying, Jeffrey's just put this money in, you need to have a meeting really quick. We then went back to, and we got 250Ks in within 24 hours. We then had another 100,000 that came through from one of his friends in Palos Verdes, who suddenly realized this was going to be good. And then we went back to Tamarack Ventures, who are a VC out of New York or Boston, who specialize in real estate, and said, guys, we're going to raise $1 million, we're almost there. They put 300K in. And now we're oversubscribed for the round. Like, what's the difference between where we were before and where we are now? Where we are now, everybody wants to invest in a company that nobody cared about 8, 9 months ago. It was because his mentality was about building a business and then making sure he listened to everybody who's around him. And not enough of us do that. A lot of us just go in, we do the pitch, we hear the pitch, and then we just go forward on it. I'm going to give you some more really good examples. We're also going to include a movie in here, and I'm going to talk about a book, which is a phenomenal space, because book writers, how many authors do we have in here? Oh, wow, okay, authors, you're going to like this. This is a phenomenal story we're going to go through. But before I do that, I want to talk about your presence, and I want to talk about your communication skills. So how you bring this across. When we're speaking, like the second I move into the space of hesitating with filler words and these type of things, I've lost you. But the second I do that, my passion from a minute ago is suddenly withering away, and now you're thinking, is it even worth listening to Brian? I don't even know. Nothing there. So it's really unfair again, because it's not about the content. The content is such a tiny amount of the communication that we put across. 7%, something ridiculous, like 6 or 8%. The rest of it is this, you, my tone, like how I sound, how I feel, how animated I am. Like that's what people listen to. Isn't that crazy? Like 40% of every single thing you're listening to me. If I can have somebody speaking right here who's 100 times better than me, of which there are millions of people, and who'd be sitting here and saying, I want to tell you how you're going to find investment for your company. And you'd go, oh, that dude Brian is awesome. But I'm not. I just know how to communicate on a level that touches people. And you need to get to that place. If it's a book, if it's a movie, if it's a tech company, if it's anything else, you have to know every single time you're with people, you're on stage. And every time the communication and how you communicate and the words you use absolutely matter. And you can use pauses. It's okay. It's a hell of a lot better than filler words. So practice it. You know who I practice with? I practice with my 11-year-old son. And it's so funny. I can't practice with my wife because she's just always mean to me. But he's, and that's not fair, but she is, because she knows me way too well. She said, I remember that time 20 years ago when you did the same thing. I'm like, don't judge me. I'm different. But my son doesn't. My son says things like, you didn't smile. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I don't smile. Like if you can get someone within a certain age, in a certain area, they'll give you very good communication feedback, because all they're interested in is the effectiveness on the message on there. But you could use other people as well, but really practice, and don't practice and say, oh, how was that? Did I do well? I want to practice with people and say, would you give me money? Actually, let me rephrase it, because I don't want to use a closed sentence. What do I need to do differently for you to give me money? And then ask the next and the next and the next. Second thing, don't be ashamed of what we're doing. Don't be ashamed of asking money. But a lot of us are ashamed because we're not sure what we're going to... Firstly, we all have this, at least for me, we kind of this repressed Catholic guilt, right? Oh my God, I can't ask for money. Well, if you have some extra money, I think the project will be good and it shouldn't be too bad. No, like we're doing something incredible. This world is what it is because of incredible things people did 10 years ago and 20 and 50 and 100 years ago. Like, we're those people today. And if there's no investment going into us, then there is no 10, 20, 30 years time in the future. And we have to say that. So when I'm looking at autism, I want to see the future. I want to know, how many kids are, I know autism, there's a large spectrum, but how many kids are we talking? How many adults and kids are we talking about in general? Yeah, we start with the US, because really, we're kind of all American here, so we don't care about anything outside our country. So let's start with American. That's okay, by the way. It's okay. Okay, good. But you're going to get it now, right? You're going to get it because I'm sure it's a powerful statistic. So I'll give you a great example. We have a company who were previously pitching for sleep apnea. So they have this sleep apnea. I don't know if any of you know this product for sleep apnea, but it's incredible. And as they were pitching the product, I was falling asleep. I kind of found it highly ironic. I'm here, oh my God, it's a sleep apnea product. Until they said over 17 million sleep apnea products were sold last year. Oh, whoa, stop. Are you kidding me? Are you telling me that there are 17 million tanks of gas and oxygen and stuff beside somebody in beds? It's just phenomenal. Like, not just the market size, but the problem that's facing. And the guy's going, yeah. And you know the other thing? None of them work. The reason they're so loud and they're so nasty is because they just all fit small, medium, and large. It would be like saying that every single brace that's going to be put on all of us when we're kids for our teeth are just going to be 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. It wouldn't work. They have to be specifically done. So these guys are doing them by laser printing. Brilliant. Takes every type of nose, whether it's Japanese or Chinese or Irish or black or anything, like every nose, and it just molds them and makes it so that your unit, the uncomfortable situation that you're in, can actually be made better. So me, as an investor, I think to myself, man, I can affect 17 million people's lives just by focusing on one small company who are going to make a bunch of money because 17 million of these units are going to be sold in the future. So know the numbers, have the numbers. Yeah, what you got? How many? 3.5 million? No way. Yeah, you see, now you do that, and like you get me. Like, and you want to get me on a couple of different levels. I still remember my wife's best friend, and he found out his kid has got autism. It's like that mixture of just tremendous gratefulness for having a child, and then just the worry about what's going to happen in the future, where you're going to be. So you already have people in this area. You want to show how huge the problem is, and then what you're going to do. If you're not going to do anything to fix it, same thing. So, and the same thing with our books, with our movies, with our tech, with everything. Lead with the numbers. When you're doing your decks, your presentations, your everything, you have about 5 to 10 seconds to get my attention. Me being any investor that you speak to. Like after 5 to 10 seconds, we're gone. Especially if it's a group of people. So let's say today, after this, what will probably happen is 5 or 10 people will want to chat about individual things. But I'll be standing here in the knowledge that there's 9 other people who are waiting to speak. So the conversation that I'll be having with that one individual person will not be 100% of me. It will only be a smaller percentage of me. So what you don't want to do is, let's say I was the perfect investor for the movie that you're doing. What you don't want to do is pitch the whole movie to me there and then, because all I am is I'm worried about the fact that I'm being rude to everybody else. You want to hit me with something really important, really quick. You probably don't even want to ask me for money. Ask me for advice and you'll probably get money. And don't hit me with like a 5-minute speech about how you're doing a movie. You come up and you say, you know, over 1 in 68 kids is somewhere on the autism spectrum. And it's so tough for those kids and so tough for their parents because most of the rest of the world don't understand them. I'm doing a movie which, I'm going to be ridiculous, right? Because I know this is not what you're doing, but I'm doing a movie which can reduce that down from 1 in 68 kids to 1 in 100. Because of the education that we're going to bring out there about how people, I don't know, the age that people have sex with each other, right? I don't, like, whatever it is that you're going to do, you have to be super specific. And then you say, I really respect what you've done in this space and where you are, and I would love 30 minutes of your time to talk with you about how I make this a reality. How can I say no? What you don't want to do is, I want to tell you what this thing is, like, it's autism and it's terrible and it's really bad and I'm going to do and there's going to be more people who are going to find out and it's going to be really awesome. Because I'm going to be nice because I know it's a very important topic. But don't do that. Like, take me away somewhere. Get me out of here another day when this isn't happening. Arrange for a half an hour. If half an hour is too long, no problem. 15 minutes. If you don't want to do a meeting, no problem. We'll do it on the phone. I care, and I want to surround myself with other people who really care. I'm going to show you another example. But like what we just saw there with and that man is an awesome musician, by the way. But what we saw there with autism is that if you have the numbers and the stats and you lead really strong with the same with the sleep apnea. Like, don't give me all the other stuff that's going to put me to sleep. Say to me, over 17 million sleep apnea units were sold last year, and not one single one works. We have a technology which is already proven, which we already have backing on, which absolutely works. And I really want to talk to you about how we bring this to market, because you've done this, and this. Can you give me 30 minutes of your time, any time in this lifetime? Because this is important. How long did that take? 12 seconds, 13 seconds, tops, like nothing else. And now I got you, because you're probably going to say yes. I want to actually let's do the Rebel Girls. These guys are amazing. These people here. So, books are kind of really important to me. My wife has written 4 books, and all 4 books are bestsellers in Mexico. Right, all of them sold. I don't know, 80, 100,000 copies, and she's poor as a church mouse, right? Because authors it's the most unfair, awful practice in the world. Writing a book is the most incredibly hard thing to do. I watch her do that. I watch her do all 4. Have all 4 get into the top 10 list in Mexico and a bunch of other places in Latin America. And then I see her collecting like 7% royalties or something just abysmal. And nobody's stealing from anyone. It's just an incredibly difficult process to do. The publishers, half of them are going bankrupt. So they're finding it really hard. The authors, it takes so long to write a book, and it's so expensive to put it together. So they find it really hard. So what are your other options? These guys here are a marketing company. 2 ladies, actually, 2 Italian ladies based in Venice. And they're a marketing company over there. And they said, so there's kind of 2 roads. Road number 1 is self-publishing, which isn't the same, right? It's not the same as Penguin Random House saying, we have published your book, you're a published author. Self-publishing is cool, it's just not as cool. But these guys said, so we're not going to just be self-published and you just go out and give away books to people so that we can sell some coaching programs or so we can do something else. We want to do something different. We want to create a purpose. And we want to galvanize a crowd. And it was just when President Trump came in, maybe a tiny bit beforehand, when all of the rhetoric were started. And they said, we're doing this book, which is really, this one here, it's a great book, but it's really just regurgitating 80 tales from just awesome women leaders. One of them is it's kind of fun to say, it was like a female pirate in Ireland. And even though she was the most vicious, genocidal woman that has ever lived on this earth, she's kind of cool because there's not many female pirates, right? So we like her. We like her. So she's called Queen Maeve. You may have heard of her. Anyway, she's kind of awesome, but she's in the book. So you get an idea as to what the book's about. The book was anything. You see how much money they raised? Point 2, that's one of their campaigns. They did 2 campaigns. I'm going to tell you how they did it. They did 2 campaigns, raised $2 million. You know how much money they keep from this? Almost all of it. The cost of doing a book like this, I'm getting a flasher. Why am I getting a flasher?
How much?
Oh, how much money they spent?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was my 5-minute warning.
No.
They spent, so on the book, they self-published it. So cost of self-publishing a book for anybody who's done it themselves, you can self-publish a book. We've had people do different types of books, but something like this, you wouldn't spend more than $1 on. $1, maybe a tiny bit more than $1 if you're making these things over in China, to have it made and sent over. We have a book that we've had self-published over in China for one of our cohort in the dojo, and they're music books for kids, really cool music books. But it costs like $2, $2.50, and that's with the music and everything built into it. So they're selling these books. I saw this on the shelf in Ireland for 20 bucks. I think they sold them here for about $15. You can see if you look through their campaign, but they're making a huge profit. They're making not 7% that my wife makes, they're making 80% profit on every single book they did. But they knew that we were in a moment in time where they probably had a 3 to a 4 year period where 13 to 15-year-old girls and the message that we're giving to those people is unbelievably important. And you can get people who normally would not associate with you. They wouldn't spend a lot of time making sure that you're okay. But in something like this, they really care. Because now these girls are being attacked. They're being attacked with false stereotypes that they're having to become. They're being attacked for gender. They're being attacked on all sides. So anyone who's standing up for them, they come into a place which is tremendously powerful. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Because, and you already buy into the message more. You haven't even read the book, but you'd probably buy the book. I'm the same. I thought exactly the same things. Like most of the fairy tales are all about, Cinderella type figures and be pretty and be nice and, and do the right thing. This isn't that. This is like go across the Irish seas and massacre and murder and have a bunch and have a bunch of guys who work for you. Like, it's awesome. But it's not a great book. Like, the book itself is just copy and paste of 80 different books that were already out there, but they got a purpose and they got a community behind them. Within the dojo, we did a very similar thing. Like, what I've worked out is not particularly smart. Like, it's a terribly unfair, awful system, whether you're an artist, whether you're a filmmaker, whether you're a musician, or whether you're an early stage startup. Hey, Danny. They got so many associations. They got a PR company. They spent about $200,000 on getting this done. And you might say, well, we don't have $200,000. God, it was a good story up to this. But they didn't start spending the money until they started making the money.
You might get some good PR from Gina Davis Institute. And our project is about, it's probably listed in that Rebel Girls. You have Susan B. Anthony in there?
I don't know. So you have to get, so here's the key with community. You have to get enough people. There are two things really important. Number one, you have to get enough people who care. If there's only a small amount of people who care, it's tougher, right? So injustices within the prison system of somebody who might have a bad thing. Like, there'll be a small group of people who care about that, but not necessarily a lot of people outside. Like, we all care a little bit, but just not enough to get out of our cereal, eating our cereal in the morning. So good. But the principle applies. With these people, you build up your community. You take the message of your story and the purpose of your story, and then you share that story to as many people who are going to listen about that story. And I don't care whether it's a movie, whether it's a book, whether it's a technology, whatever it is, there are always people within your space you have to galvanize together. We had another company, which are these guys here. Not these guys here. Let's just see. 802 Secure. This company here are a tech company, different type of company, 802secure.com. And this guy realized that there was a huge problem within wireless technology. That everything is pretty much wireless today, right? But there's no security in anything. It's so easy for hackers to break in to, whether it's our police or our fire brigade or anywhere else, it's so easy for them to break in. So he realized there was a huge problem in this particular space. But he did something which is really unique in their area. Firstly, he hadn't raised any money. He was doing it all from his garage. He's a normal Scots guy. He's based over here, and just a very humble guy who really understands his business. And that's the other thing as well. You can't generally fake purpose. You can't fake authenticity. When you're building a strong community around you of people who want to help, you have to do it in an authentic way. But he realized there was a huge problem. So he immediately reached out to one of the top people in Cisco, one of the top people in VeriSign, whether the top people in Verizon, top person in AT&T. And he said, look, I don't know if we're going to be a huge company or if we're not, but I do think I've come up with a solution for the wireless tech, for the wireless security. And I would love to have 30 minutes of your time. You see the way everything I say revolves back? It comes back to building this incredible community of people who matters. Like anyone who knows me, oh, I do. I wasn't sure. I thought my boy might have broken it last night. Anyone who knows me knows I have a pay it forward bracelet on all the time. But it doesn't say be stupid and pay it forward, like pay it forward to any random person that you do, because I don't have time for that. I just don't. And you don't have time for that. It means be smart in the way that you pay it forward. Find the community that are most relevant to what needs to be achieved over the next X period of time, and then align yourself with those people. With him, it was about making sure that there were a phenomenal group of people who are all people who made a difference, people who matter. And then those people became the ones who became his advocates. So now he's raising, 2 years into his business, he's raising $10 million. And I genuinely think it will be the easiest raise of money that we've ever done. 2 years in. Not a Harvard grad, not somebody who's related to money, not something, but somebody who's incredibly passionate about what he's doing and the difference that that's going to make. And then how that ties into the large people within the area who are greedy. They know that whoever comes up with a wireless security package that's going to fix this is a $5 billion company. So you think it's worth them getting involved and giving 30 minutes of your time? So I implore you all, and some of you within movies, you might say, well, it's really hard to do that. And I'm not even directly in movies, but it's not. You just have to position yourself in the right place. I've got Paige, who just called me a second ago, so she might be late. But I've got Paige coming in here in a couple of minutes. Now, Paige has financed about 500-600 movies. So over 15 years. One of the most well-known people in Hollywood for doing what she's done. Now, when I first heard about her, I reached out to her and I said, she was actually brought in by a colleague who I had said, I want to meet people who are in the film business. I want to make sure that we get people who are able to finance movies, not so that they finance a movie straight away, because the second I ask for that, I'm the same as the other 5,000 people who are all writing to them and emailing them and everything else, so that I can understand their passion and see how that we can align with similar passions. Now, with me, it was easy because I'm working with companies who only specifically help other people get stronger. And I'm kind of not on their level, but on a philosophical perspective, I am on their level. So I reached out to her and said, I really want to meet you. I really want to talk to you. I really admire the career that you've had. I think a lot of our companies can be related to your companies. And she said, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. And then we sat down and we had some drinks and we got on well together, and then we had a little bit of lunch, and then I invited her for a podcast. And then there was another guy, Bill Johnson. Anyone heard of Bill Johnson? Really well-known, again, movie financier. He just did produced the recent movie with Jennifer Lopez, which was the kidnapping. I don't know if that's out yet or if it's coming out, but they've just recently done that movie. But he's done, again, 400 or 500 movies. Now, he's a guy who doesn't care about my particular space, but he's a great speaker. So our podcast became a great platform to get him in. Sequoia. Like most of you have heard of Sequoia as a large investment firm. They don't care about Expert Dojo. They don't care about Brian's mission to save the poor people of the world. Like, who cares? They're already rich. They don't know any poor people. They just read about this stuff in stories. But they have egos. So I reach out to them with a different message. I love what you've managed to do with the companies that you have. We have a podcast which is highly respected and listened to a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of those people are going to get bigger in the future. Sequoia, like, yeah, cool. We'll do that. No problem. You mean lots of people are going to hear me saying how awesome we are? Yeah, fine. Lightspeed Ventures, one of the largest venture capitalist companies in the world, exactly the same thing. 3 other film producers, exactly the same thing. Just find what it is that your currency is to get you close to these people. And then you pull your circle closer together and you make sure you put yourself in the positions. Now, I'm going to open it up for questions in a second. And then afterwards, I want to take you through a brief presentation on how the numbers work, how the business development work, because I think what I've said so far is very much speaking to your creative brain. So I'm saying, build up a community, make sure everything is gelled and it's pulled together, make sure that your purpose is aligned and congruent with what you believe, make sure you speak to the right people who are within. Like, all of that is good, but it all speaks to your creative brain. I want to take it to a really uncomfortable place after I just take a few more examples, because I want to just take a break from me. And then we're going to go to the numbers that it takes for you to be successful in raising money. Yeah, what you got? Oh, I'm going to take you first, yeah. Hey, Catherine. You got it. It's my number one, but we don't do anything else in Expert Dojo more impactful than that. And what you've just said is exactly why you get to speak to people for 45 minutes that you couldn't normally do. Yeah? Yeah. Because I asked, I had a friend here, a guy called, I shouldn't say who it is actually. I have a really good friend who came here who's a really well-known reality TV star. And he's worked with Jack Osborne, a bunch of other people, one of the top coaches actually in the UK. And he said to me, he was here last year, and he said, LA is an amazing place. He said, I spent $1 million last year in LA. I said, man, this is crazy. How'd you spend $1 million? He said, it was slowly at first, and then it just all went in one go. And that's the thing about getting a lot of money when we're not used to it. And also when we're not educated as to where we should go. So when we're teaching at Expert Dojo, investment is actually step 8, not step 1. Because we're not ready for it. We're not ready for $1 million. We're not ready to wake up the next day and say, I got like $1 million in my bank account. Well, I need a really good developer. I need someone who understands me, someone who can really take it to the next level. I cannot tell you how many people we see every week who have wasted $1 million. Every week. And all of those people, every single one, prays and wishes they could get that money back because they would do something entirely different with it. Because they didn't wake up one day and say, right, we're going to waste $1 million. They didn't. They met the branding person, and the branding's like, oh, yeah, I see your vision. It's beautiful. What we need to do is the world needs to be aware. It's like, yeah, everybody needs to know. This is great. That's like 80 grand. And then that didn't work. So then the first page on Google guy comes around, because he's always here. Like, there'll be somebody in the audience today who's a first page on Google guy. And it's like, we can help you get onto the first page. Everybody's going to see you. It'll spread everywhere. It'll go like wildfire. That's maybe 150,000. And then your development guy, he'll come in. And by the way, I'm broad brushing, right? There's some good and decent people in all industries. I just don't see that many of them, right? And so then the development person will come along, and the development person will be a lot of money as well. And it's also because it's not that they're bad people. It's just they have their own interests at heart. Their interests are, branding guy is thinking, or lady is thinking. Actually, all of our branding people are women. Branding people I love, actually. And branding is really important. So I don't want to belittle any of these individual steps. They're really important. If you don't have a differentiating brand and purpose that people really understand what makes you special and amazing, you're wasting your damn time. But it's very easy to get the wrong people just because they have the right credentials, and then all of your money goes, and suddenly you're down to 350,000. And you've hired 2 or 3 people because you've now got to hire people to make sure that you can deal with this stuff. And you no longer deal with Pepe, who is your brother's friend, who used to do your attorney work. Now you got like a good attorney who charged $700 an hour. And again, nothing wrong with attorneys, you just have to be really careful. And it's just, we're not educated for what we should do with the money in a lot of cases. So many of those people go down, and many fall away and they get bad advice. Yeah. You, and this is why this is so complicated. Because take a CTO. If it's a tech business, it's a producer if it's a movie, right? But if it's a tech business, your CTO is almost the most important person in the whole business. This chief technology officer is the person who makes sure that your product has the most human-centric experience that just flows beautifully. Without the right person in that role, you don't have a company. You can have a great product with a terrible experience that will fail. You can have a terrible product with an amazing experience that can succeed. So things like chief technology, but how much should you pay? Should you pay $300,000? I had an example of one of our companies where the CTO realized that one of the partners was quite wealthy and decided that they were going to triple their charge. But before they'd made it. So it's about, look, this is also, think of it as a marriage. Every one of these roles is a marriage, every single one. CTO I actually put up there as top, actually. I think CTO is tremendously important. If your tech company does not have someone who is tech enabled, one of my companies, I had like a property development company that went really well. I had a consultancy company for office space that was great. We were in about 30 countries. And I had a technology company where I was in charge of technology. Yeah, don't do that. Wasn't good. Right? You should have somebody awesome who should do it. But it's like a marriage. So would you meet somebody on a first date and you find that person incredibly attractive and really engaging and say, hey, we should definitely move in together and set a date? No, because you're like, I don't know. Like, the guy could smell. Like, no, let's just wait and see what's going to come. And if in 6 months' time we realize it's going okay. So I'm a huge personal believer in 1099 contracts. That guy walking out of the room there is a genius for 1099 contracts. Sean back there. No, don't go. Hold on for 1 second, just so I can stare at you for 1 second, right? So you're looking, this makes the point that within the audiences that you're in, you have amazing entrepreneurs who have gone through it, set up brilliant businesses, exited those businesses, and are actually in a position, and I know you're not investing now that you're coming in another business, but just in really strong positions, like those people are in the audience. And this guy here is one of the most paid forward and decent people ever. So if you ever went up and said, hey, could you just help me out? I just need 30 minutes or 40 minutes to work on a project I'm doing. Like, I don't want everybody to cry at him afterwards, but it's a representation of what you already have. A lot of the time, thank you. That was all, Sean. I'll see you when you come back. Run like the wind. But it's a great representation. Like, they're in the room. Sometimes we want to go in front of our 4 special angel and VC investors who are here, and then we take those people and we go, wow, they're the ones. But the people are in the room. You just need to make a strong enough impression with your point. Yeah, what you got? Oh, sure. So I really like, firstly, how you introduce yourself. I mean, obviously I know you, but I really like the way you introduce your why. The why is really important. I mentioned this a few times, and many of you, I'm sure, have seen it. But if you haven't seen the Simon Sinek, I can't remember, is it called like The Art of Why or Being a Great Leader? But if you haven't seen that, you should, because every single time that you say who you are or you introduce yourself, you must introduce yourself with a why. Don't introduce yourself with a what. Like, you don't care that Brian does training and education. Like, that's boring. our why is that we want to make sure that we take ordinary people with extraordinary ideas and make them successful. Like, isn't that way cooler than we do training and education and coaching and incubation and boring stuff like that? So for you to be able to take social impact and take it to a level where you change the world, it's really powerful. Because what happens when you say that to me? Like the second you say to me, I have a question. What's my question? Like immediately I hear that. I go, hey, Tiffany, oh, cool, what do you do? And she goes, this is what I do. What am I going to say? The second you say that, I'm going to have one word, which is going to be a question, or 3 words maybe. Like, how do you do that? Because now I'm interested. Like that's the whole objective of the first line of the sentence that you have, is to make me say those 3 words. How do you do that? Because the normal conversation goes, hi, my name is Brian. I'm the owner of Expert Dojo. Expert Dojo is a coaching facility, and we incubate some companies, and we're on the top of the Santa Monica Mall. Oh, brilliant. Hey, my name is Jimmy. I'm a recruitment agent, and I've been a recruitment agent for the last year. Hey, Jimmy. Like, I don't want the conversation to go that way. I want to make sure that what I say is such a strong, powerful why that Jimmy says to me, you kidding me? That's awesome. How do you do that? Like, and then you've got it, because now they want to know about you. So creating a community is not necessarily about numbers. It's about making sure you're in the right places with the right people. So for example, yesterday I drove to Glendale, which like is no joke. Yeah, I went from Santa Monica to Glendale, and actually it wasn't even the driving there, which is hard. It was the anticipation of how hard it was going to be to drive back. It's just, I was filled with anxiety for even when I was up there talking. And I went there to speak at Glendale Tech Week. And Glendale Tech Week has got some entrepreneurs over there, but genuinely not really the entrepreneurs who, there's only a few. Like if I go to Santa Monica, I could reach out to 50 times more entrepreneurs in a much smaller space than in Glendale, that I would have over there. But I knew that Glendale were going through a similar problem to a lot of other local governments, which is that they're in a crisis of entrepreneurship. They don't quite know what to do. They don't know whether they want to bring in, hang on one sec, this is one of my speakers. It's kind of random to do this, but do you mind if I take a quick call? She's asking, it's Paige, and I don't want you to miss her. And she's probably saying to me, she's trying to find us? You got it? Thanks, Jeff. By the way, that's Jeff. You all want to know Jeff. Jeff has more media production equipment in his living room than most studios. He also has multiple studios as well, but Advantage Video. He has more in his living room as far as, I don't want to say, but I can't say it because you're just going to break into his house if I tell you. No, but to take it from me, like, this is a guy worth knowing as well. And that's where I want to get to in the last half an hour of this. Thanks, Jeff. What I want to get to with this is that you start to get to know other people in the room, because you got them all around you. He knew, by the way, he was the guy who introduced me to Paige in the first place when she came around. But he was a guy who I'd known for about 2 years. I didn't know that he knew one of the top movie financiers in LA. So that was cool. Sorry, I was at a point which I've totally forgotten. Building community, right? So when I went to Glendale, I went there because I knew the city were running the tech week, that they were doing it themselves. I knew I could do a talk which would be relatively engaging for the city based on what they were trying to do. I knew they were making an effort because otherwise they wouldn't do tech week. So I reached out to one of our entrepreneurs who knew the folks over in the city in Glendale and said, look, I'd be happy to speak over there and give a 30-minute pitch. So then what happened was the city then came over to Expert Dojo to find out a little bit more about us, and now we're working with 20 or 30 people in the city to do the same thing. Like it's not by luck. It's like Gary Player says, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. Like, it's just about hyper focus on paying it forward to the groups of people that can most impact you. We really care about the cities because we know that if the cities improve the grants, the help, the assistance, the mentorship, we know that we're going to get more entrepreneurs successful. So it's important. And immediately after we did the talk, the city said, oh, could we bring Expert Dojo over here? We'd really love to work with you and bring you into the space. We have a budget. So it's all aligned. You have to set out your strategic plan almost from the beginning. I'm gonna pull up what the strategic plan looks like. But every day if somebody says to me, even if my wife says to me, how was your day yesterday? I will say 106. Okay, it's not terribly romantic, but it's very quantitative, right? Every day of every week, of every month, of every year has a number of activities and objectives that I need to achieve for that day to be successful. All I look for, and I lead with that. I do not lead with my creative side. I don't need to lead with my creative side. My creative side is already fed. And it's the same with everybody in your room. I don't need to show you how to be creative and how to be great. You've got that nailed down. What I have to do is stifle that. I have to stifle it so when you wake up in the morning, this morning I woke up at 3:45. And it was okay. Like, it was great. Actually, I woke up at 3:45 because I had a bunch of stuff to do that I love doing. But I also knew that it was physically impossible for me to do the 27 activities that I had to do before 6:30 in the morning when I wake my boy up to bring him to school if I didn't wake up at 3:45. I don't know if this is sad or if it's awesome or if it's somewhere in the middle. But I know every single day I don't have stress because I know what I need to do. I never get to the end of the month and think, oh man, I don't know what went wrong. Because I know that failure for me is the same as failure for all of you. It's only ever because of one of three things. Number one, it's because of the people, me. So I suck at logistics. I'm okay at this, but I suck at logistics. So if I'm in charge of the entire logistics of something, it's going to fail. Right? And I want to know that, and I want to know it sooner rather than later. Number two, the product. I've had not great products before. Some of you here, just statistically, your products suck. They do. So just some of you, I mean a small percentage. And that doesn't mean that they're going to suck in the future. Like take Amazon, which was the example I said before. Their products probably sucked for the first couple of years. But they had 10 years runway. And sometimes it's the process. It's how we tell people, how we engage with people, the actual process they go through to engage with our product. So what's our objective? We only have one objective every single month. And that is to find the truth. Our objective is not to do 10 sales, 20, 30, produce one movie, do 3 movies. It's to find out the truth. It may be that our movie, with its particular purpose, is just not that appealing to enough people. And that might be because of me, that I didn't do a good enough job with the process. I didn't explain it properly. I didn't do a good enough job because I'm not a great producer. I'm the wrong person to be on the movie. I want to know that. Or my tech company, or whatever else it is. Or finally, it could be because just it was the wrong movie, it was the wrong time, it was the wrong tech product, everything else. Like, that's what I want to find out. But I can't find that out. I can't find the truth if I don't give myself numerical and quantitative guidelines of what I want to achieve during that month. So at the beginning of every single month, we set out how much revenue we want to achieve, how many users we require for that revenue, how many prospects we require for those users, and how many marketing activities we require. Normally, we just work on 4 marketing activities. We don't generally go much beyond that. We normally take 4, right? But it's awesome because if I find out that my marketing activities weren't bringing us to sales, if I find out that everything was working well, but I didn't get to the revenue number I needed to at the end of the month, then I know I need to fix something. And I promise you, for all of you, the reason that you will fail, if you fail on what you're doing, is only because, hey Donnie, come on up Donnie. The reason that you will fail is because you've run out of runway. That's why we fail. Right, now we've worked out at the dojo that 18 months is kind of an ideal period. But we've also worked out that, hey buddy, this is Don in Montoya, by the way. Don is a really good friend of mine. He's an angel here in Santa Monica. I asked him to come around. I just asked my friends to come in one by one so that we can just talk about the individual areas that are going to help. So Don has very kindly come down, and he's going to give you like 15, 20 minutes of his perspective of how that's going to help. Right, Don?
Sure.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so he knows that. So I'm going to pass this mic to Donnie in a second. But I do want to say, search for that truth every single month. Set out the beginning of your month with quantitative deadlines you need to do. And some people will say, well, Brian, at the first month we need to do branding, or we need to do product fit, or we need to do market validation. Like, you can't put numbers beside them. Yes, you can. You can put numbers beside how many branding companies you're going to outreach to. You're going to put on what branding objectives you're going to do, on what numerical thing. Like every single thing has to be numerically led. And if you find that seeing 50 investors to get your movie or to get your book didn't work, then it needs to be 100 the next month, that your process was right, your people were right, and your product was right, but you just don't have high enough numbers, then the next numbers you go for more. And then every day, all you're doing in the morning is you're working out, how do I get to 15 people today? Do I come to a group like this and I meet 3 people? Cool, 3 people off my list. Is that the best use of my time? Do I maybe do 14 emails through LinkedIn to other people? Do I maybe reach out to people who are within my audience to try and do something there too? Like, what are my specific marketing plan to help get me to that kind of place? Okay?
What's the third thing you said? Yourself,
People, product, and process. They're the 3. They're the areas that just get you. And then all you want to do is when you're working out your 18-month milestone, if 18 months is your number, but it is for most people. Most of us, for like the first 5 months when we have a project, it's this wonderful time. We all get T-shirts. You see, we got T-shirts. Gary Vaynerchuk says the day that a startup gets a T-shirt is the day before they fail. Yeah, it's very. But we got a T-shirt anyway. What the hell? If we're going to fail, we want to have a bunch of T-shirts to keep us warm. So we get our T-shirts, we get our cards, we give ourselves amazing titles, and it's just brilliant. Paige, thank you, Paige, for coming. Take a seat there, relax. We're going to bring you up in about 10, 15 minutes. Thank you. Yeah, this lady here is one of the most awesome, incredible, giving people that I've met in Hollywood. She's amazing. So she's going to share a bunch of stuff with us in 10, 15 minutes. But in the meantime, just enjoy the show, right? Paige is like, really, Brian? You're going to make me come all the way up there the day before? I'm going, yeah, because we're friends and because you're awesome. Thank you for coming, by the way. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, you want to make sure that you're just following those specific criteria just so that you get to be successful, and you measure it every month. And if you fall out the beginning month, Daniel, have I missed anything?
No, you're spot on. You're charismatic, you're formidable, and you have a network of people who are here to support you.
Thank you. This guy here, again, one of the top coaches, one of the top people in entertainment. The amount of people he doesn't know, I can't even count. So again, you're surrounded by great people. Daniel, how can you, for people in this room, like you've heard me, you know me anyway, so it's like you stayed longer than I expected. I thought he's going to go, oh, here's Brian again. Like, you know my thing. But what advice would you add on top of what I've given so far?
I'll give you one critique. You mentioned the importance of the CTO as it related to product. And I think what you didn't hit on was the product as it relates to the CTO. So that was one thing. But the biggest thing that I would say as an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, it's all about your foundation. It's the people around you and the character of those people. There's been a number of times in my career that I could have gone faster with the wrong people. And anytime I made that decision, it came back to bite me in the ass. So my most recent startup, from the beginning, it was who were the right people. And fortunately for me, I had the run rate to make that time and let the right people rise and the right people go off. And the only reason I'm stepping out from Brian is because there's a strategic person with IBM Watson that I need to meet.
Oh, that is beautiful. That's what I'm talking about. This stuff here, you can get this any day. Like, you can learn some things. No, not Donnie. Donnie's really good. But me, you can get this like any day. But if you go to a conference like this, there are about 40 strategic people that you can go and see, and your only objective is meeting those people and letting them know who you are and where they fit into where your journey is going to be. By the way, with Daniel, we're working on a project right now where we're looking to put 1,000-person multimedia immersive dome in New York, right? And create one of the most epic venues for bands, musicians, movies, Deepak Chopra, all kinds of stuff. Yeah?
Yes.
I thought if you just didn't say anything, I was thinking maybe he's just backing out. No, it's going to be phenomenal. So again, all of these are happening. Daniel, thanks for hanging out, mate. I'll see you later on. Great person. How can people contact you, by the way, if anybody ever needs you?
You.
Okay, right answer. Okay, perfect. So again, I want to keep making that point. Got Donnie Montoya here, right? I met Don when I first came to LA. again, local angel in the area, has worked with startups his entire life, has come through some of the biggest companies in LA, and is in a place where he works with startups. What would you say? Let's do a little interview. Can we do an interview?
Okay. Well,
Pretend to take me seriously. Okay? There you go.
Okay. Has anyone ever seen me speak before? Oh, good.
So
Fresh
lucky.
meat. All right. Real quick, I'm going to do it. Let me tell you who I am. My name is Don Montoya. I am the founder of a company called Connect to All. I am a consultant and angel investor. I have my own email marketing company. I've been with many startups. My first startup was Internet 1.0. Anyone remember Earthlink? I was one of the original employees of Earthlink. I was their number 50 in the whole shebang. When I joined Earthlink, they had 20 dial-up numbers. They were a local ISP. I had CompuServe back then. This is 1994. And I said, you know what? I think this internet's going to be popular. I was a visionary. I just needed somewhere to get my porn. No, I'm sorry. Just a joke. I've had 3 hours of sleep. I'm going to apologize right now. So I was with Earthlink through the IPO. And it was very successful. Earthlink opened up at 13 and change. Within 6 months, we were at 99. The stock split. 8 months later, we were back to 99. And I left there, and I sold my stock at 79. And I made a ton of money. Plus, I made a lot of money working. I was making $200,000 a year selling dial-up and domain names. It was the Wild West.
And that was a time when $200,000 a year was a lot of money.
That was a lot of money. And I did this all in shorts, flip-flops, hair down to here. I was a musician, still am. And yeah, it was great. So I went through that whole thing. And then when DSL was king, everyone remember DSL? Some of you probably still have DSL if you're with AT&T. I was with one of the startups that made huge inroads, a company called Internet Connect. I was one of the founders of that company. We raised $14 million in seed, and then we raised $64 million in venture capital with Spectrum Ventures out of San Francisco and Boston. And we went from a local ISP. I knew that DSL was going to be the king because of the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which allowed companies to go into the central offices and able to do business with the existing copper lines that were being used by the phone companies. So anyway, that was a 4-year ride. That was nice. We went from 4 people to almost 400 people within 2 years. And we sold all our assets to Covad, which is a CLEC, which is still in business, in 2001. And since then, I've been doing real estate, heavily into real estate after the bubble burst in 2001. Everyone around, remember the bubble bursting in 2001 when all the companies were going pop, pop, pop? Because what happened was, instead of everyone looking at market share, we all started looking at revenue. And when that revenue came down, a lot of companies went away. And then I met this gentleman. I always had my email company. I always had my consulting company. I heard there was an event over at the Victorian on Main Street in Santa Monica. And
Did anyone go to those early events?
Anyone go to pay it forward events?
Yay!
Well, a mutual friend of ours told me there was an event there. I go, what are you talking about? That's where I used to sponsor events back in Internet 1.0. And there was a company called Venice Interactive, and I was very active in that. And I met Brian. And he told me his vision, and he wanted to know if I would help mentor startups so they wouldn't screw up and make silly mistakes. So I said, sure, I'll be part of this, but I could feel the energy. It was all back again. It was this Internet 2.0, this, Tech Week LA stuff and everything. I could feel, what I felt back then in the 90s. So anyway, that's a little brief thing. All right, go ahead.
What makes a startup successful? But it's important because the background of the people who are investing matter. And when you're looking at investors or when you're looking at strategic partners, people who are within your space, we can find so much about those people online right now. Do that extra little bit of homework, because if you go over to Donnie and you said, hey, you know that you were in this business. I know that you were originally invested in this business here, and this is what you did. I have a business which is very similar. He's going to go, whoa, hang on a second, tell me about this. Why? Because it's relevant. But tell us, when you're not only an investor but also surrounded by investors all day, What is it when anybody here is pitching? Probably 50% technology, 20% product, rest movies.
Okay, really you have to have your pitch honed. You have to be self-assured, and I want to hear, and we all want to hear the same things. We want to hear if you're solving a problem, and what problem are you solving? Is there a need for what you're doing, service, product, whatever? You're building the better mousetrap. Then we want to know how you're going to make money. Is this going to be something where you're going to try to sell your market? You could collect email addresses, or are you going to actually try to bring revenue in? Then we want to know if you have any kind of exit strategy. Today, everyone wants to get bought by Google or Facebook, or someone who has a high valuation out there, or still an IPO, which is an arduous process, but people are still going public. And then, to me, the key is your management team. Who do you have on your team? What have they done before? Can they handle this? I know you're really good friends with your brother-in-law, but he shouldn't be on your, as running your team if he has no experience.
And just so I want to, these points are so important. I want to just slow them down a bit. Remember the example I gave of Craig at Smart CSM before, Craig at Smart CSM today. At the beginning, I didn't mention he didn't have a decent other person on his team. It was just Craig. Craig at CSM today has a phenomenal COO, a person who can run the logistics of the company, because now he can afford that person. But he learned. As far as the money was concerned, at the beginning it was hard for Craig to show that his company was going to be able to bring in money. He could promise, but he couldn't show. Craig today, he can show the money. The investors like Donnie are looking to see not just do you have revenue or don't you have revenue, because it's not a yes, no, it's not a black-white. What percentage of a surety do we have that you're going to come through? So don't worry about the no's. The no might just mean you're only at 27% today. Your whole job is to get to 28%, right? And 30 and 40. Am I boring you?
No, I had 3 hours of sleep. I apologize right at the beginning. I had 3 hours of sleep. I was working on a PPM last night till 3:30 in the morning. That's a great point. Real quick, how many of you guys are doing something that's no one's ever done before? By raise of hands. Okay. How many of you guys are doing something that's been done, but you've improved upon the whole process? And you're making it. So you guys are going to be the easier guys to get money for. Because people, if they have something that's already been proven, and you're improving that process, it's easy for investors to invest. If you're doing something that no one's done before, it's a harder road to climb, because investors think, well, why hasn't anyone else done that? There's probably not a market there. So you guys got the tougher road. I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, perfect. So we know now what's important to do in your pitch and how you put it forward. As far as how should they approach the maximum amount of people, and how many people do they need to approach to get angel investment? And by the way, we're going to touch on movies afterwards. When Paige comes up, we're going to talk about movies specifically. This is more focused on product, technology, and new innovation. So how many people? I've just arrived here. It's my first day here. I've got an amazing product. It's brand new. How many people am I going to need to have a conversation with, a dialogue with about what I have?
It's everybody. I mean, you need to go to events. You need to find out, what's going on. You need to get on mailing lists. Locally here, we have LA Tech Happy Hour. We got Startup Coil. We got Expert Dojo. We all send out emails like, you need to go. Here's the events, and whatever fits into your category, you need to attend. So you need to spend a lot of nights out, go to a lot of seminars, and you never know who you're going to talk to. You never know if that person is going to go, that is the coolest thing I ever heard.
Well, how many people do you think? Is it 100?
Hundreds. I say
or 1,000?
Possibly 1,000. The thing is, you have to have in your soul the passion, and you have to have been able to sort out all the negativity. If people come up to you and go, wait a minute. And then if they don't get it, they don't get it. But you have to have the answers. Because otherwise, if you come up with, I got to get back to you on that, or I'm not sure, we're still working on that, don't bother calling them back. Don't start pitching your stuff until you have it all in a row. Now, that I said that, you may pivot 4 or 5 times. You may find that what you're doing really doesn't have the market that you're looking for, and you may go and do something else. I talked to several companies that they call me up or send me a new deck going, hey, we pivoted. Are you interested now? And so that may happen. It's such a, there's no finite number. There's no how many places you got to go. You just got to find the right people that you can connect with.
But have a number. Have a number for yourselves. You actually just reminded me of a good example, and Donnie was there. We've never required investment in Expert Dojo. Not before. We never wanted it, never needed it. We're a company that makes profit and really proud of it. We do it with other people. But we decided at a time that we wanted to invest in startups. We thought, there's so little investment out there, we should do it. And we felt we have a better mousetrap because we have this great funnel. We work with people for 3-4 months. So we're not getting married on the first date. We work with them for a while, we get to know them, we find out the probability of success, and then we get to a place where we realize, do we need to fix more things, or is it a more investable company? So I brought in 60 investors into our office in Expert Dojo. We know them all anyway, so it's relatively easy for us to do that. So I brought 60 investors in the room. Some of them are huge, people like Sabrina Kay, who's worth $7 or $8 billion. Actually, one of the top entrepreneurs in Santa Monica. If you're looking for an inspirational story, came from Korea, like 8 or 9, single mom at 20, had her first billion before she was 30, then sold it to Goldman Sachs for like 3.2 billion with no investment, then bought it back from Goldman Sachs for a couple $100 million. Beautiful story, right? It's like little person slays big person. And then founded 2 of the companies. She owns Fairmont College, she owns a bank, and she owns a cryptocurrency. But people like those were in the room. And I said, we have this great mousetrap, we have this great funnel, we're going to fix stuff, we want you investors to come in, we want you to give loads of money, and then we want to invest that money as an LP. It's how funds generally work. We want to invest that money into the startups in Santa Monica and bring seed money back. And what the investor said to us, well, let me get this straight. So what you're saying is the system is broken right now, the model is broken, and you're just going to do the same broken system but with a better funnel. I said, yeah, it doesn't sound the same when you say it, but yeah, that's what we want to do. But what it made us do was then go away and think, actually, that's not the best solution. Yeah, we get a small fund and we put some money into it, but that's not the best solution. The best solution is to find other investors out there. So really, the reason that you're meeting whatever number, I have the number of 1,000 in my head. Whenever I'm looking for an early stage company within our community, we will come out with the number 500 or 1,000. If it's an epic company with just a no-brainer in 50 places, maybe the number's 100. But for the rest of us normal schmucks, it's 1,000 people that you're going to go for. But remember, the 1,000 people are not people to pitch to get answers from. The 1,000 people are to help with your education to build a more amazing product. Because what all of us are building is brand new. So we do not know that we have it right. We just know that we have it. So when we're meeting with the investors, right? Mm-hmm. Ask, learn, get better, and then come back afterwards. And when we came back and said, thank you so much for helping us, because actually you helped us build a better mousetrap, they loved it because now they felt they were participatory in the process. What else, Donnie?
Pitches. How many guys feel you have a pitch down? That you've really honed it, worked it? Do any of you guys ever video yourselves doing the pitch? You have to video yourselves doing the pitch, because then you'll see where your holes are. Then you'll go, oh, why did I say that there? I forgot to say that. What am I talking about? You get to see that in front of yourself, and you got to do that. And with a phone, you don't even need cameras anymore. You got a phone. Just prop the phone up and start. Time yourself. Make sure you have a 30-second. Make sure you have a 2-minute. Make sure you have a 5-minute, because you never know when you have a chance to pitch. And make sure you add these 5 things. Here's the problem. Here's how we're solving it. Here's how we're going to make some money. Here's an exit strategy we came up with. And this is my team, and this is what we've done. But concise. No well, let me see. And don't read anything. Nothing infuriates me more when someone comes up with their phone and they start reading their thing. Because you want to make eye contact with as many people as you can in that room. Because confidence exudes when you know what you're talking about. I've been doing phone sales my whole life. And you got to exude confidence just with your voice. and with your answers. The same thing is when you're pitching. When you're pitching in front of somebody, you got to look them in the eye. You got to say, I know what I'm talking about. If you listen to me, I'm going to give you 10x your investment within a year or 2 years. Is that cool? Would you like to be on board? Get out your checkbook.
And also spread good, use good news too. So it's not just about pitch. You have to build up the momentum as you go along. So I'm taking a picture of Donnie here. I'm saying at Digital Hollywood, speaking with Don Montoya, the great man. Like, you want to spread the word. It can't just be, oh, I did 50 pitches today, it was okay. It's about your strategic attack on getting that money. And that attack may mean that, hey, I'm spreading the word, hey, I'm going to post some good news, I'm going to build up good news, I'm then going to send it out, I'm going to do PR releases, not expensive ones, because you don't want to just blast them out, and then send them strategically to people. When you meet your first investors, don't just meet 10 people and say, I've done 10 people this week, I'm going to do another 10 next week, I'm going to do another 10 the week before. Make sure you're interacting one-on-one with each of the investors and finding out the ones who loved you. You're sending them a different interaction to the ones who thought you were okay, and you're sending them a different interaction to the ones who didn't like you. Because didn't like you just meant that you were somewhere between that 27% and 0%. It doesn't mean that you can't bring it up again, and your good news will take them from the Craig at Smart CSM before to the Craig at Smart CSM today. What else, Donnie? Last minute or two. What else we got? Never ever heard you speechless before. You know, I like it actually. Don't feel like you got to change.
3 hours of sleep, man. I'm telling you, coming down the 405 was not good. I don't know what you covered earlier, so I don't want to.
So we've covered. So actually, take one example of a startup who went through a difficult process to raise money, what they did, how they did it, and where they got successful. Anyone you like. I know you've got loads of them, but just take one you like. And what I want is for people here to get... You've got a question?
Yeah, yes. One of the challenges I'm having currently is, so I'm kind of a little bit pre-approaching investors at this point, but I need some funding to develop proof of concept and develop that community.
Friends and family. That's where you're going to... It's the only place you're going to get really money from if you're at that stage. I mean, you're going to have to bootstrap something. Invest a little bit. You don't have to do a whole lot, but you have to, invest a little bit. If you're not going to invest in your own company. Okay, good. Well, then you know the answer already. That's
I don't know. I don't know.
It's tough. It's really tough on an idea to get money.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard.
Unless you don't, get in the right, know the right people. Or you can get recommended by someone, referred. See, no sleep. Referred to somebody by somebody else. That's always a warm lead. Try to utilize your inner circle, and and they get them all hyped. And if they can't help you, maybe they know someone who can. It is
true. You are like so. I would really struggle going to my mom, right, or my dad, or my sister. It would be tough, even for me. And nothing's tough for me. That would be hard for me. However, my friend that I went to college with, who's now a major partner in KPMG and responsible for destroying most industries in Ireland, like I would go to him. Because I've known him since he was in school and we have a relationship, but I'd need to have still a really good pitch, but I know there's more of an emotional reason why he might want it to be helpful. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go to that person unless I know I've got a killer idea, because I don't want to ruin that friendship, because it's a whole different world that I'm messing with. But generally speaking, a lot of the time, we do find that in the early stages, there are people within your community. So for me, you've got to do two things as well. You've got to take that 1,000 and increase it to 2,000. You've got to be very hyper-focused on your own area as well. Make sure that, and then you look at everybody you've ever known, the people you've gone to college with, the people you went to school with, the people you went to kindergarten with, the people who know your parents, and then you look for the people who would be directly in your space, and you're not going to call them up and say, hey, I haven't seen you in 3 years, I really could do it 50K. You're going to say, I have this amazing idea I want to share with you. Of all of the people I know, I felt that you would most resonate with what I'm looking to do, and I want to brainstorm on how we can find investment to try and do that, because I feel that you might know people yourself. Okay. Thanks. I'm going to, yes, let's do something. Donnie, do you mind taking a seat there at the end for a sec?
Okay.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, Donnie would be glad for the rest. Paige, can I bring you up, please? Thank you so much. We're going to bring, I want to do this loud. No, take a seat. Don't you dare go away. Take a seat. Are you going to go? Okay, you go on, go to the bathroom. Okay, Donnie's coming back. Okay, so we got another great treat over here as well. Asher Leeds, one of the most prolific angel investors in LA. So Asher's going to come up at the end as well. But Paige, come on up here first. Can we give her a round of applause, please? Thank you so much. This is great. You're an awesome, wonderful lady.
Hey,
Thank
both
you.
in blue.
Yes, I like.
I matched the curtain.
We didn't even match. It's my only jacket, but it's my favorite blue.
Jacket, Johnny.
Oh, Tony, unfortunately, is coming back.
Jeffrey, let me give
Yeah,
you this for Johnny.
he is.
He's probably got his car keys.
Yeah.
He only had 3 hours of sleep.
Let me do that. I'll leave it here. I'll be okay. He'll be safe with me. Would you? Let's take a seat. Let's take a seat for a second. I want to, because I feel with Donnie. Can I put this here? You want to take it? Okay, cool. So, tell me, you've got a bunch of people in here who are looking to raise money for movies. Paige, I gave the.
How many people are actually in here for that reason? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we got a couple of people, right? And it's super hard. You've got finance for how many movies? Hundreds.
Yes.
Hundreds. And let me actually just give this to you. Whoops. There we go. So, can you share with us a little bit? Actually, forget my questions. All of these people in here, you know what they're going through. What advice would you give to anyone who's looking for investment in a movie to have either the best route to A, get investment, or B, move on and find a new idea? What process should they go through?
So the best, sorry, repeat the question. Sorry.
The best process for everybody here from right at the beginning when they're looking for investment to a movie to, let's be positive, to getting investment for that movie.
Well, how many of the people here that raised their hand have already made a film? Okay. So I guess a lot of the people would answer different questions about how they, differently about how they achieve the funding to make the movies. When I began my career, it was very different than what ultimately occurred.
Yeah.
So what was striking to me, we could answer this question a lot of different ways because there's a lot of ways to raise money, obviously. But there's private equity, there's pre-sales through buyers in various territories in the world, and there's crowdfunding. The most striking change, you looking for your jacket? There. Oh, okay.
You told me to sit down.
Oh, okay. So I think the most striking change was the crowdfunding, because I remember whenever people would call me at my company, I would ask where they got the funds for the film when they had completed films that they needed me to negotiate distribution on behalf of. And the conversation started to shift to this Kickstarter. And I remember when that was new. And I was just amazed that people would actually donate money to a film versus being an investor in the film. So
what's the difference? So when you're an investor in a movie, what thought process goes through your mind as far as investing or not? If there's 20 random people who pitch you a movie idea,
yes,
what makes you choose one over another?
Well,
any investor in a movie.
Any investor? Mm-hmm. What motivates an investor? There's different things that motivate different investors. Am I getting a lot of reverb here? Let me put this.
No, I think we hear you. We hear okay? Yeah, we hear you. You sound great.
So, I guess there's everything from, the guy that owns a chain business somewhere in Ohio or Idaho or Pennsylvania who's made a lot of money and is bored and wants to get on the red carpet and kiss the starlet, and that's not very politically correct at the moment, but you know what I'm saying.
But very current.
It's current, yeah. So, and it could even be a tax benefit. They may not be that concerned with making money. And then there's...
How do you find those people who could potentially have tax benefits? Because I think many of those people don't even know about the tax breaks they could get, right, if they invest in a movie.
People with a lot of money are usually pretty up on tax breaks, I've found, in my experience. So,
So
Yeah.
are there people who are they make over a certain amount of money, and how would you approach them? So let's take that person in particular, relatively wealthy person, which we can target, right? We just go to a nice party and we know most of them will be there. How would you start the conversation if it was your movie that you were looking to get finance for?
Well, I guess because I was doing this for so long, the investors would approach me, so I didn't.
Pretend you're not uber successful, and you're like the rest of us, and we're walking into a room, and there's 200 wealthy people in that room. Like, there are people who earn a lot of money and they could benefit from tax breaks. How would you position it?
Well, I mean, I think it's definitely about making a connection with the individual and finding out what motivates them. So when you're pitching something, you want to know who your audience is and what the driving force behind their incentive is.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so our natural intention whenever we meet people is to talk about our movie, our passion, our project, or anything else. What Paige says is just slow down. Let's find out a little bit about that person first.
Right.
Let's find out a little bit about what they do, how they work, are they married, are they, like, what is it that drives them on a daily basis? What is their purpose? Because the more we know about that, the less we save time on actually messing around with a bunch of stuff that's irrelevant.
Right. I mean, you're not there to just practice your pitch, and you get one chance to make a first impression. So I guess it's a question of, again, knowing what is the motivating factor for that investor. And it could be anything from wanting to be in this business because of the sizzle and the sexiness of it, to wanting or being concerned with the bottom line. So if they've invested in films before, there's going to be, they've already been through the learning curve. And if they're still there, then, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
They say a lot of people got rich in the movie business. They were wealthy. So, in other words, they lost money. So, I think it's important not to take investment for anybody who can't afford to lose money. Also, there are elements to a package that are essential in order to have a compelling reason why. So why it would make sense for anybody to invest. So you want to have a known director, for example. Whereas years ago, it was important who was in the cast. And then a lot of movies were made with A-list cast that weren't necessarily successful. And so they were botched by directors. So later it became important who was your director. So you want to have an A-list director. That's going to certainly attract cast who want to be under the direction of that A-list director. And then, and I've always been a proponent of going directly versus going through agents.
Is it hard to go directly to those directors? I mean, and how would you do it?
Well, I've always been pretty cynical of people that don't live in Hollywood that try to do these things. Because I've had a lot.
No random Irish guy can just do it.
Well, you live here.
I feel you.
You live here, though.
You live here.
I'm okay. Okay.
You came here.
Okay. So if you're in the space, it gives
Well,
you. Well,
first of all, I don't know why I'm saying this, but it's just something that, you're laughing because you're identifying with this, because you've probably gotten calls from people from other states and places in the world that want to be in the business, but they certainly don't want to relocate to Los Angeles. So I think one of the first things is to be in the epicenter of where film deals are being made, and that is here. Yeah, they're not necessarily being shot here, but the deals are being made here. So I think, I've pretty much closed my company and left the workforce and joined the play force, as you know, and I'm doing this as a favor coming here today to you, because I like you. And you pleaded with me to come and do it, so I'm here. But I mean, I I noticed even
because you
moving
know-
to the beach
'cause you know the
compared.
space.
Well, yeah, this is what I did for many, many, many years. So I understand why you want me to speak on this. I'm a little rusty, so forgive me because it's been a few years. So I'm just coming like for fun and for free to be of service to see what I can impart on you. So what my point is, ever since I closed my company in Beverly Hills, let my staff go and join the Play Force and just focus on healthy, fun stuff in my life now, I moved to the beach. And I noticed it's even a big difference. I might as well have moved to another state. Because moving to the beach versus being in Beverly Hills or Hollywood, or near the studios, or near where all the companies are, where people do deals all the time. I mean, when you're in that area, as soon as you start doing deals and going to events and film markets and film festivals, and you come back home, you see everybody in that area. You'll run into people on the street. So that doesn't happen much at the beach, you know. Although you can, if you're in Malibu, you can actually cast, you know, $100 million film with the actors that walk down the beach. But as far as like the deal makers, they're in. I mean, even when I had offices on the Warner Brothers lot, I found that I was around more like gaffers and grips, which they're fine, but I don't naturally identify with them the way I would with other deal makers, business people. So having my office right at, you know, Camden and Little Santa Monica for many, many years was a great benefit, because you can't sort of go to work without running into the attorneys, the agents, the managers, so everybody's all around, you know, you overhear everybody's conversations, you in the restaurants, and you know, you go to events in that area, and you're more likely to go to events if you live right there versus, you know, getting lazy and being at home at the beach, which is what I do now. But so I just think you've got to definitely get out there and shake as many hands and talk to as many people. And if you already know that you're not good at that, you should probably engage a producer who is. So if you're the type of person that prefers to be in the mountains and write or create, then, you know, you just have to accept that and say, okay, that's who I am. I need to find a producer who's willing to go out and schmooze and shake hands and make deals. Just, if you're not the best person for that, you know, I'm not available to hire anymore. I once was, but that's where I came in, so.
You just get somebody to do it for you. Okay, good. So a director is tremendously important. If you don't have a good director, the chances of getting picked up by anybody major is pretty small.
Well, but that said, I mean, you got to work with what you do have. So I don't know, how many people in this room have contact with A-list directors? Raise your hand. Okay. And how many have projects that need to be sold on some other attribute? Right. So let's talk about that for a minute. So maybe you have a genre film and it can be sold based on that. Maybe you have a socially conscious documentary. I did a lot of those. And if you have a socially conscious documentary, then you could sell it on the merit of the topic. You know, for example, we did, well, I'm going to name a few, but they had cast. We did Stolen Childhoods with Meryl Streep narrating about child slave labor. We did Juvies with Mark Wahlberg narrating about kids behind bars in the U.S. prison system. We did Heaven's Fall, which was a feature film with Timothy Hutton and David Strathairn, and it set the precedent for all juries having to have mixed races. Hey, welcome.
Thank you. I definitely do not want to stop. Paige here, and she's going to keep on going. But
so, you know, I mean, I'm trying to think of an example of a film that didn't have cast or a name person narrating. But obviously, if you're doing a documentary, does anybody have documentary in here? Oh, great, that's cool. I love documentaries. That's my thing. So I did probably more feature films of my almost 200 credits. But I always had a mandate at my company to represent numerous socially conscious documentaries, and that's just my personal favorite. So, and I was doing that before it was popular. So, I think with a documentary, if you have, like for example, there was one documentary I did which was kind of funny. It was called Fathead, and it was about a guy who found things to eat at McDonald's for 30 days and actually lost weight. And, you know, there was no celebrities in that and everything, but it was sort of a reverse Spurlock thing. And, you know, I guess it's easier if you've got a cause that you're passionate about, which most documentarians do. And the best thing I ever heard, I was on a panel at I don't remember if it was South by Southwest or Austin or something. Anyway, somewhere in the world, and there was Michael Moore's wife, who was his partner, who really did a lot of the work producing, said, or no, it was Michael Moore that said on the panel, you want to make sure to really be passionate about the subject you're making your documentary about, because you're going to have to live with it for years. So you're going to be eating, breathing, and sleeping that topic. So, you know, before you get started, you want to make sure that you're okay with that. But the thing about those types of documentaries is you can find people with cachet that are passionate about subjects, so then you can have what's called a wraparound, which will increase the value of your film. So you can start the project and then go to, you know, a Mark Wahlberg or a Meryl Streep or somebody that is passionate about that specific cause, and ask them to just do a wraparound or narrate for you, and that helps a lot, as long as you make sure to secure the rights to use their name, likeness, their image on your artwork and on your presentation, because the worst thing is if they say, okay, I'll do that, but I don't want to be used in any of the advertising or marketing of your film. It's sort of like, it defeats the purpose. So you really got to make sure to finesse that as part of your deal, because that's going to make a huge difference to any distributor.
You know, and I think one of the points that I took right at the beginning of that, which is tremendously important, is if you're not in that area, it's really hard. I cannot even imagine starting a tech company in Ohio. Now, I'm sure there's some great tech companies in Ohio, right? But I just don't even know where to start. I'd end up in a random co-working space. Well, I know here in Santa Monica, every day technology rock stars are coming in and out of that place, whether they're coming from San Francisco or Austin or somewhere else, because we're a hub. If I wanted to take it to extremes, we'd be on Sand Hill in San Francisco doing the same thing. The point I'm just going to bring Asher in a second, I'm going to bring it back to you. But the point that Paige is making is make sure you're in that space, you're around those people. Trying to email them or link in them, try to hit like an A-list director or a top movie star is extremely hard. But you can see them at the Grove every single Saturday. Like, you'll see 5 of them walking in and out of that place, and you can very politely and cleverly say something and drop a very quick point. I don't mean to disturb you. It's not this. I have a tremendously passionate project. 2 seconds. What do you think of this? And you've got them. And you can try and do it. I want to bring Asher Leeds in as well. Asher is an amazing friend to entrepreneurs in Santa Monica. He's invested in over 30 businesses here, has come in at an area which is incredibly challenging for most investors, which is the really early stage. He invested in one of the first companies that came through the Dojo, has an unbelievably high success rate, which I didn't even know until the other day. I think of the companies you have, 29 of the 30 are still going strong, right?
Yep.
Which in early stage startup, forget every statistic. Yeah, right? Seriously, because with an early stage startup, it's a statistic. I don't think there's another investor anywhere that I know in the US that has a statistic like that. Being brave, staying in the early stage, helping people. And by the way, like we talked about the ideas before, I remember Asher invested in a company that didn't have a website, didn't have tech, didn't have an app, didn't have anything. They just had an idea and some incredibly hardworking people. But then that won't be all of them. There'll be other companies that are way later stage, right, that are moving along. It's about great purpose. So I want to ask you 2 questions, Asher. Firstly, would you ever invest in a movie?
Well,
because Paige got me thinking, you're a successful gentleman. need some tax breaks.
Well, it's interesting. My career started as an attorney with I'm not sure if there's with an entertainment law firm in L.A. But and Paige mentioned something. Paige mentioned something about entertainment finance when I was first came in standing here, and I had a thought, and I do a lot of financing, and she mentioned something. We have issues going on in just general financing of companies in just Silicon Valley and general financing companies. And I thought about how to finance companies just in, in the movie area and particularly for women. I figured out a way to get companies financed. And you can go find Harvey Weinstein. Damn, I thought that was going to be a lot better. Damn, that one just fell flat. Shit.
You worked on that
God,
all the way
I was
down
working on that right while I was standing there. I guess it was just too early for that, huh? Just a little bit too soon for that, huh? Damn. She alluded to that too in her thing. All right. Well, there goes my stand-up routine, I guess. God. Actually,
I haven't made my official statement though. There's that photo of Quentin Tarantino and Harvey online with me floating around. I haven't made any statements, and I'm not going to do any here.
Yeah. Well, actually, for me, it would be a sit-down routine since I'm disabled, so it wouldn't actually be a stand-up routine. But again, flat. God, tough audience, I got to tell you. Shit.
They're early
Really?
stage
Yeah, really.
As
God.
you speak, everybody's thinking,
Just
how do I get invested?
tough
How do I get
audience.
invested?
So going back now to your question, I guess, which everybody really wants the answer to. So me personally, I'm not. I would invest if I were going to invest in anything movie related. It would be more in the studio realm, in the distribution area. Particularly, movie. Just investing in one particular movie. That's probably not something for me in particular. It's not my thing because I want companies. So if someone wants to come to me and say, "Here's my idea. I'm going to start this new type of studio. Movies are going to be, or new type of entertainment company. Movies are going to be part of it." That's great. Let me talk. Talk to me. See what you're going to do. What do you want? What's your idea for that? I mean. You've had maker studios, which was an entertainment type company. If they did, movies as part of that, sure. But, just a one-off movie for me personally is not something I would be looking at.
Do you know people who would invest in movies?
I personally don't really. I don't know people in what I do that would invest in movies one-offs. That's again, it's just not what is the thing that I'm doing.
And my point on this whole thing is I know Asher doesn't invest in movies, right? And I know it's not directly in the line that he works in. But my point is more, you can find out really quickly. It's not about persuading somebody that they should do something all of the time. You can find out really quickly if it's inside somebody's war chest that they want to do. And then you can find out, do they know people within areas that they can actually work with in movies. So I bet you if I then said to Asher, do you know somebody who's in the movie space? He probably knows one or two people who are in that space.
But that being said, do I know people that do it, or am I 2 degrees separated from it? Absolutely. I could. So if someone came to me and said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," I'm sure I could put out an email to a bunch of people and say, "Hey, this is a project. What are you doing?" And, that being said, one of my good friends, I'm sure Paige knows who this is a guy named Rick Yorn, Kevin Yorn. If people know who that is, they're very well into that space. I don't particularly follow everything that they do, but they're good friends of mine, so they're very into that space. So if I ever needed to say, "Hey, here's a project somebody presented to me," not what I do, but I could pass it on. So I certainly know people in the industry.
And my point is more the questioning techniques that you're going to work with people. So 3 questions in, Asher knows some people, but he doesn't trust me. Is that 10 minutes?
It's really 8.
8's good. But just like that. Okay. So just it's okay to have the conversation, but the people need to trust you. So if I just walk up to you at a dinner party and I say to Paige, "Hey Paige, do you finance movies?" Who are you? What do you do? You don't want to do that. Build in slowly. But if I'm with Asher or Paige, And they get to like me, they get to understand that I'm passionate, they get to understand that the movie that I'm making is about autism and it's about helping autism and I'm going to impact the world in an incredible way. Asher might then say, you know, I know this person in this space, in this area here that may be able to help you. But you just want to get that passion across. Now we've also got a lot of technologists here too, Asher. What do you love when you're investing in companies?
Well, I mean,
Other than money.
well, so, I mean, look, you know, what I always look for, and I think what most investors will tell you they look for, first and foremost, when they're about to invest in a company, is it's all about management. You know, so, I mean, so how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. How do you, what do you look for when you're, about to fund a company? Management, management, management. The idea is great. You know, certainly you want to have a good idea, but, you know, more times than not, the first idea that someone is going to tell you is not the idea that ultimately is going to be the one that succeeds. And a good management team is going to know when they need to do what's called a pivot and do something different than what they originally came to you with, versus a poor management team which will just keep going with a stupid idea, even though it sounded like a great idea initially and you've put money into it. So, you know, that's why you're betting on what a good management team is. And that's why you don't usually, and I will tell you, any investor that I know, and certainly I, will never invest in one person. You have to have a team. So, you know, if you're going to anybody worth their salt, you better have a team in place, or be saying, I'm going to be getting the team in place before that check's going to probably be written, because no one's going to want to bank on just that one person getting something done, because it takes a village to get a project done, just like it takes a village to get a movie done. It takes a village to get a company going.
Is that the same for you, Paige, as well? When, for investment in a movie, is it really important more than one person, or do you think as a one person with a good director, you're okay?
Well, again, I guess it's the package, and part of the package is the team, right? So, I don't know, but what I'm wondering is if we should open it up to Q&A, because I bet there's questions we're not thinking of, and you said there's only a few minutes left. What about this gentleman here?
Yes, even though I have a tech background, my business is in health and wellness and only semi-related to tech. So the question is, because I know everybody likes to sell lots of widgets and your latest, greatest app, are investors, or what type of investors are open to something that's not strictly tech?
Donnie, do you want to open this? Answer this?
Well, is it an item? Is it something that you make, or is it a service?
It's teaching people, it's products and services, teaching people a longevity lifestyle.
Okay, so it's more of a service, unless you're selling the magic pill. You know, if you have products, it's a whole different set of steps you have to do, because you have to think about warehousing, shipping, manufacturing, the whole infrastructure. Okay, so see, that's easier, because you're selling an idea, and you have to hit the right demographics for your idea, and you have to hit the right investors that invest in things like that. There are investors that are definitely only invest in health and wellness stuff. That's their sweet spot. So that's the deal. So you just have to find your audience. It's not that difficult. You don't want to go to a guy who only invests in hardware, like servers, and try to hit him up, because he's probably not going to be real receptive. But if you find someone in that space, that's how you do it. That's.
Paige, you're in charge. Who's next?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm
No,
not the
you took it.
moderator.
You took it.
All
You got
right, the woman that raised her hand first over there. You. Which one? I didn't hear you. Okay.
Awesome.
Very good person. Anyway, my question is, what if you have a company, you have your management team, you have your products, you're sort of rolling but not very fast. How would you know to make a pivot to get an investment to actually grow the company, opposed to just keep trudging along? Is that at investor scenarios that I have? Not so angelic investors.
So the question is how to get investment in a slate of films within your company versus one film, you mean?
Oh, no, sorry. Pivot to another, just a company in general.
A movie company? Production company?
No, not production. Actually, the question was directed just to the.
Okay, what,
How do you get to make investment in a product? It's a hypothetical question.
say, did you understand that?
Yeah, As an overall strategy, when you get to, when you get to a certain point and you can't go forward and it's stagnating, that is the time to think about how much equity you want to give up in your company to get things back on track and get it accelerated.
Can we put Asher in as well? This is going to be the last question, and then perhaps
So,
an answer.
Oh, we got one more.
She has, so.
We're going to finish this and then.
So there are two things to learn from her scenario. Number one is, before you even take an investment, and everybody should always be aware of this, whether you're financing a movie or you're financing a company or whatever, it's a marriage between, the people you're taking money from. So when you're doing that and you're getting into this relationship, it's as much, you have to do due diligence on who your investor is as much as the investor's doing due diligence on you. So she's giving you a very good scenario and a very good point on that, because as she said, some of those angels were not so angelic. So you got to do your due diligence, before you take money from people. And that's a really great point for everybody.
But you don't know they're going to turn into devils like down the road. That's the weird thing about people, is they might start out terrific, and then you're in business with them and you find out they're psychos. So, I mean, you just have to be willing, you have to develop a thick skin, in my opinion, and you have to have good contracts to support the agreement that you guys made when you shook hands. And I can't emphasize that enough, because we're living in a very litigious society in America, where anybody can sue anybody for anything. And the joke in the film industry, for example, is if there's any movie that's budgeted over $10 million, there's always a lawsuit because some asshole feels entitled. So, and people try to make money any way they can when they get desperate, even if it includes suing people that have money if they don't, and they have nothing to lose. And they'll get some cockamamie lawyer in some weird place that will take it on, unbelievably. And you'll get a letter from some weird, normally personal injury lawyer who suddenly, like, his cachet is increased because now he's in the movie business, suing somebody that's known, that has deep pockets, for some reason that makes absolutely no sense. And it doesn't even matter. I mean, I had a case once where the guy wanted to sue me. We went to mediation. I didn't want to be in the same room with the guy. I've never met the guy. My staff talked to him on the phone. We talked on the phone because he was in another state or something, and he came in for the mediation, and he already had typed up this thing saying that if I took, ironically, his film directly to people like Harvey Weinstein and people like that, that he would drop the suit that he was claiming that we were a bogus company, So if we're a bogus company, how come you'll drop everything as long as I go to this list that you've prepared and brought to mediation? And thank God he was sitting in another room, because I would have gone to jail, because I would have punched him in the face if he was in the same room. And you're not even allowed to use that in court, ironically, because it's in mediation. So you can't take that away and say, okay, we're leaving, let's go to court and let's show this letter, because you're not allowed to show that in what was presented, any evidence presented in mediation, ironically.
Be careful now. And I want to say, look, we're done. We're going outside, so it's okay. I want to be respectful to the next panel. I think we're already a little bit over, but can we just...
There is no next panel.
No.
Oh, so can we take that question? Oh, yes, there is an expert.
You mean all those people at the door exist? They do. But look, we're going to be outside. If you want to ask any questions, can I have a huge round of applause? Honestly, Paige, to come out of retirement just to talk is amazing.
We'll be outside if you have any more questions.
One of the top angels in LA. Donnie, one of the most awesome New Yorkers that's ever existed. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're going to go outside just so everybody can come straight up. Okay. Oh, yeah, we're going to get a picky.